Alright everybody, welcome back to some more Kerbal space program, Interstellar Odyssey, or Space Quest. One of the two. I'm still indecisive as I am for every single one of these. So anyways, today we are heading out to the outermost moon of Kerbin, that being Minmus. And our craft is a bit atypical compared to what our normal landing craft is. This one is comprised of some more science units. We have 2 more science juniors and 2 more goo canisters than we usually do. And to offset this extra mass, I brought along 2 little rocket boxes on top of that little fuel tank. I don't even know what it's called, I use it so infrequently. Anyways, our launch stage is also a bit atypical. We had those solid rocket boosters to help us get through the atmosphere, and they really ended up being very helpful with our final launch stage, the one that we used to get ourselves in orbit around Kerbin. We dropped it with tons of fuel in it, tons and tons of fuel into the atmosphere, because I do not really enjoy leaving a bunch of space debris, even though you can go back to it and delete it. That's kind of cheaty, you know. You can't delete space debris in real life, so I figured let's try and make a craft that doesn't have space debris, and that is exactly what this one is. Unless you consider debris on the surface of a moon space junk, it doesn't really contribute to the Kessler effect if it stays or on the surface rather. It doesn't really float away. I mean, if you plan on going out to Minmus and making a little colony, and you don't like seeing spent rocket motors and stuff all over the floor, well, maybe we could be doing just a tad better, but for leaving space junk in orbit around celestial bodies, we are doing pretty well. We have met our regulations, and it is something special. So anyways, I decided to show my entire launch procedure this entire time around because some people were asking about it beforehand, and I figured let's just show it all, because some people starting up with the KSP, the hardest thing to do is getting your first rocket up into orbit, and I found this design to be very helpful for reaching any celestial body in Kerbin's sphere of influence, that being Minmus or the moon, very easily and without much hassle. All you have to do is point it and press spacebar when the stages are spent, and you're pretty much good to go. So right after we spend these last external boosters right here, they're not the solid rocket boosters, they're just some extra asparagus staging right here. I'm messing up my speech for whatever reason. We toss those down back to the surface, and then we are almost ready to circularize our orbit. Now, as soon as we're about to circularize our orbit, our what is this called? The orbital stage, there it is. Our orbital stage has practically full fuel, and I knew I was going to leave some behind. And whenever I'm using this stage to get into orbit, I always drop it into the atmosphere so it'll eventually decay back and it'll crash into the surface, leaving no debris. However, it costed us some money this time around. Not that we're having to spend money on these fuel things, but if this happened in real life and NASA spent this much money on a rocket and then just decided to spend this fuel stage earlier and then just drop it back, well, there's going to be some budget crisis. There's going to be some repercussions. Anyways, our orbital burn, goodness gracious, my speech is so bad today. As a matter of fact, I really hope this is all edited together rather nicely. I did this about a week ago, and it's snowing at the moment. There's a lot of snow on the ground, and I was trying to get out there and go in the snow and have a walk around because it doesn't snow very often here in South Carolina, so I figured let's make the most of it. So I snapped this together once I had it recorded, and I thought, alright, I can get around to this some other day, and today is that some other day. So I'm here today commentating over this because I figured, hey, it's got to be done at some point. We haven't done Kerbal Space Program in a little over a week. I believe it was in my last Kerbal Space Program, the one where we go to the moon, if I'm not mistaken. It may or may not be. But I predicted that we would have some snow days this week, and this whole week, excluding Monday, has been a snow day. So we've been out since Tuesday, and right now I believe it is, what, Friday? So yeah, we've had snow days galore, and I've been able to make videos and just record and play with pals without any hesitation, you know? During the week, I would have to, you know, allocate time to that kind of stuff. Time management's a big thing that I like to do. If it sounds very nerdy or OCD, I understand. I'm minimalistic OCD, but I like knowing what I'm doing with my time, that I'm not wasting it. I have my stuff planned. I'm not as bad as having a daily planner that has 4:30, let's go wash my hands type of deal, but it's something along those lines where I decide when and what I'm going to do and what's most important. So anyways, after we spend our stage right there, we are on to our orbital maneuvers stage, the one that gets us out to our celestial bodies
and helps us deorbit from those celestial bodies to a landing site at our discretion. Now, once again with this stage, we do have to discard it with some fuel left, but that's usually what happens with this stage. We don't always use it all up because by that time that it's mostly spent, we are nearly on the surface and we just can't land with it, or else we could do it on Minmus. And we could probably do it on the moon as well, but it's not a very stable craft with regards to the gimbal on the engine. I don't believe it has gimbal on it. It's a KW Rocketry one, and I'm not sure if any of those engines have gimbal, but they are some pretty sweet engines. But from the IVA view, we're just taking a look at the moon, doing some nice little spinning around just so we can see the surface of Kerbin one last time, those inviting shores, those fantastic clouds, not quite city lights because it's not nighttime on this side, but if we had those city lights, well, and we were able to see them, they would be thanks to the Kerbal Enhancements mod, which adds nothing material to the game other than those aesthetic clouds and the city lights in the night sky. So we plotted ourselves a trajectory that would land us on an encounter with Minmus in about 2 or so days. Not that we have life support or anything installed, and I figured out that was an error that I had. I was doing some recording and I was trying to get back on the moon, you know, just get some science one last time, and I had the life support installed and it was causing my computer to lag intensely, and I really don't know why that mod specifically caused it to lag. It was just a little GUI box that told me what was going on with life support, so I ended up having to remove it because it was just such a big deal. I really don't have a whole lot of mods installed. I have Remote Tech, I have Kerbal Enhancement, the Visual Enhancements mod, and KW Rocketry, and I don't believe I have anything else major than that. I don't even have Kerbal Alarm Clock or Kerbal Engineer. Oh yeah, I also have Keythane, but that may be throwing out all the memory I have at the moment. I don't know. I'm not sure how much memory Kerbal Space Program usually takes up. It's not a whole lot, but my computer should be able to handle it, but I just decided, hey, we really don't need life support all that much, so hey, let's just get rid of it, you know, cope with having to be able to go out to far-reaching places and not be concerned with the supplies that we need to sustain our Kerbals. So after a while and a little bit of course correction, we are on our plotted path, yeah, look at that alliteration, oh yeah, that's what I like to see. So after we go on our plotted path out to Minmus, it takes some time to get out there. It's about a 2-day mission, you know, this is the furthest body from Kerbin right here within the Kerbin system, so come on, you gotta give me some time here, come on. I mean, the Apollo astronauts, those who went to the moon, that being Apollo 11 through 17, not including 13, they spent several days on the moon, each of them, I do believe, and yeah, let me think, I don't believe any of them stayed under 2 days, so yeah, that was something, especially the rover missions, those being 15 through 17, those were some good stuff right there. Those rovers, those were fun. I want to bring a rover out to either Minmus or the moon. Now the moon, it would be easier to drive, but on Minmus it'd be easier to haul out there because it doesn't take nearly as much delta V to slow yourself down, and even if you thud against the surface of Minmus, you're not going to break anything sometimes, so if you're going, let's just say 10 meters per second, you're more than likely not going to hurt much. But I do have another mod installed. It's Kerbal Attachment System, which allows me to have little storage bins on the side of my rockets. And with those storage bins, I am able to bring in rover parts. So I can bring in some cubic octagonal struts, or I can bring in some wheels, or I can bring in some fuel lines and such, and I'll be able to bring stuff down onto the surface. Hey, no haywire at all, because the typical Apollo, the way that they brought the rover out to the moon was either they strapped it to the bottom, or I don't believe they ever had to assemble it on site. I don't believe so, but I do know they kind of strapped it to the side, and then they had to counterbalance the weight a little bit. But hey, that's just a little one of those things. The more you know. The Apollo program dabbed some rovers on the side just cause, you know, we wanted to drive around a little bit, so let's just smack it on the side. Come on, let's just counterbalance it with some Doritos or something. But it's not really how it happened. That's just a gross simplification, but you get the idea. So anyways, once we circularize ourselves in an orbit around Minmus, I say let's just have an orbit around. Let's just come on, let's just do it. You know, a little bit of orbit to judge where we're going to land, and I saw my orbit, that is, going straight over one of the flatbeds, the old lake beds or whatever they were, getting smashed by asteroids, meteoroids, or what have you, and we were going right over that in our original course. However, I forgot and neglected to calculate that you know, Minmus kind of rotates a little bit, and I think it rotates decently fast. So much so that, well, it doesn't rotate decently fast, it's just that we're moving very slow because Minmus is a very outreaching moon, so our orbit around is not very fast, and therefore it is not as well. So our time to get around one orbit took some time, so much so that we lost our course over the flat lake bed, so much so that we had to do a little bit of course correction. No skin off our back, no fuel out of our rocket. Well, a little bit of fuel, but you understand, you know, it's not a whole lot of fuel. I mean, we still have plenty. As a matter of fact, I really underestimated the efficiency of this rocket because we come back with so much fuel, I just have to ditch the little fuel tanks, and I feel bad for the guys because they're going to be weighted down heavily by the fuel that is still in their tanks, but it's something that we just have to do. You know, these budget cuts, they're yet to hit us, so we're able just to throw fuel all around the system. And hey, what if one day, you know, Jebediah finds himself somewhere stuck, and look at that. What's that? Is that a random fuel tank full of fuel? Why, I never. But hey, look at this. Bob Kerman is just leaving fuel tanks all over the place. He's a high roller. He's at the casino, and he's leaving chips on the floor just because he knows he's going to win. I mean, look at this guy. Come on, look at that face. That's the face of a champion. You know, just solacely looking out into the space, just looking out. Just, hey, just stop for a moment, you know? Look out. Look at the JPEG. But Bob, I wanted to give another Kerbal a chance to land on a celestial body first. Jebediah, as always, is my first man to go to the moon and land there. But Bob, I wanted him to have something to say, you know, go back to the parlor and say, hey, gents, guess where I just came back from? Oh, what, the bathroom, Bob? No. Minmus. And he comes back from Minmus, and everybody's very impressed, and he earns his orange coat, no doubt. He actually stole that coat, and, you know, I can't make that a verb. He sewed on his name onto his jacket, but it really wasn't his. It was one of Jebediah's old ones during training. But hey, now he has definitely earned one through this little endeavor. Now, it takes a while to land on Minmus because time acceleration stops once you're under 3,000 meters above the surface. So after this point, I was unable to time accelerate, so I just decided to speed up the video and editing, so it wouldn't take as long, but it did take some time in real time trying to get down to the surface. It was a couple of minutes, I believe, and that's some time without space, or time acceleration. Let's say space acceleration? That doesn't work. You can't accelerate space yet. But as we start to decelerate, we are trying to X out all of our lateral velocity so we can land straight up. We don't want to do any hopscotching or pogoing. Not yet. Not until we bring out the pogo sticks or the rover capable of doing so. I mean, maybe we should get Lugdorf or somebody to do that. Bring out the pogo sticks and try it. Because if you do even the smallest jump on Minmus, well, you're going to be in trouble. You're going to be going way above your spacecraft unless it's a condo spacecraft. I wonder if you could get into a stable orbit around Minmus using just the EVA pack. I feel like it's doable. I feel like that's something that can be done, and I also feel like it's something that can be tried. And if you ever have a spare space plane that is working on those new Rapier engines or anything, you could try and break some land speed records here, because there's no atmosphere on Minmus, and these nice little flat lake beds, pretty good for some drag racing. But you got to be careful because you might go so fast that you just zoom out into, you know, interstellar space. So got to be a bit careful with that. I mean, come on, there's got to be some risk. I mean, let's just think about this for a moment. Just going so fast that you just go away. I mean, that's a lot of velocity to change. Anyways, we get all of our science from our modules, and then we decide to EVA Bob as he makes his steps down these ladders, because now we actually have ladders. We don't just have to jump out and hope for the best. Now we're actually able to make our steps, and boom, look at that. First Kerbal to fall off a ladder onto a new celestial body and still have a smile on his face. Look at that, Bob. He is just emanating confidence. He is jumping so high he can dunk it. He has the combined dunking power of LeBron, Shaquille O'Neal, and Michael Jordan, all in one little green guy. Look at this. He is the NBA's finest, and they don't even know it yet. And he's not even here to accept his contract. Goodness gracious, what a man, what a man. And with our flag, we decide that this is in fact a good place to do some drag racing. And by the way, we have to say that Bob got here. I mean, it's not very Kerbal-like to say that we didn't crash some expensive spacecraft into a surface. I mean, we did drop something. There's that interplanetary stage, but hey, what can I say? It's always fun hearing things explode where they shouldn't. But once we do our EVA report and we get our surface samples and all, it's almost time to head back. But never fear, we're going to spend a bit more time on Minmus. I mean, come on, just take it in. Just look at all those roaming hills and then this nice flat lake bed. I just really like the way Minmus looks, even if it is made out to look like a mint dessert like the Kerbals do say. But I just like the way Minmus looks. The moon's cool and all, but there's always that feeling of danger from the moon. You know, you might not have enough fuel to get away, and if you do get into orbit, well, you're kind of stuck there. But with Minmus, you can have very little fuel and still feel fine. You can even go visit a couple other biomes and then still make it back to Kerbal in a reasonable amount of time. So I guess it's Minmus's lack of danger that entices me to come here and just walk around and dilly-dally and break land speed records. But anyways, after we pose for a nice little thumbnail, and then Bob has had enough of the surface after a couple of minutes, he says, "Man, I don't want to do this anymore. We've already spent millions of dollars to get here. This place doesn't deserve any more of my time. That 3 or 4 minutes of my time does not deserve it whatsoever. Let's just make our way back home with all of our science." And if you notice, there's decouplers on those little Rockomax stages right there, because we do eventually decouple those, but I just decided to cut that out because it's an issue. Now, we do have a bit of a surprise at the end. This is something interesting that I did not expect to happen, and I thought I had avoided it for the last time, but you'll see exactly what I mean. But when we do in fact take off, let's just take our thermometer reading real quick. I almost forgot about that. We need to get all of our science. And this is the point where I thought my KSP was going to crash, because I see the little spinning Windows thing and I thought, uh-oh, I quit. I've had enough of this. But the surprises are forthcoming. So we take off with very good acceleration. I mean, look at this. We have just over a G or 2. I think we have about 2 Gs of acceleration. With regards to Minmus, is quite a lot of acceleration. I mean, we're almost on an escape trajectory in less than 30 seconds. That's just how little gravity this Minmus moon has. This moon has. But just look at that Apoapsis skyrocket. We are on an escape trajectory in less than 30 seconds flat. Look at this. This is what I like to see. This is just good. Oh man, look at that speed. That delta V, that change in velocity. This is what I like to see. So anyways, we're on an escape trajectory. Then coming on our way home, you know, it's time to make our way home. We've been out here for days. I don't even know if Bob has any food. Maybe he's snuck a couple bags of Cheerios or something, maybe those little cereal packs in his front pocket, just in case he got a bit hungry. I mean, he knew he was going to be out here for a while, but goodness gracious, 3 going on 4 days, wow, that's something else. And if you're noticing all the orbiting geosynchronous satellites, or the Kerbal stationary satellites, whatever you want to call them with your technicalities, I put those in orbit a while ago, and I decided I wasn't going to make a Kerbal Space Program episode out of it, because it's just launching satellites, something that we've already kind of done and, you know, gone over. So I didn't feel like it was really necessary to show you that, and they kind of failed because the orbital periods were off by about 20 to 40 seconds. So they eventually caught up on one another, as you're seeing right now, and that made quite a few problems for me. So I just decided to cut out my shortcomings and just, you know, make our way to Minmus, because that's not a shortcoming. That is a success. That is a great leap and an even bigger bound. So after we tried to jack around with our orbital trajectories, we had an issue because the moon was going to be on the right side of our trajectory, that being once we go around Kerbin. But we're not going to go around Kerbin. We're here to stop. But the way Kerbal Space Program's orbital trajectory system works is once you have a certain amount of encounters, like if you have 1, it won't tell you certain apoapses or perigees or whatever, or what have you. So we had to kind of guesstimate the way we were going to burn, so much so that we almost missed, and that's where one of the surprises comes in. Because of that silly little, you know, that the moon was in our way. I mean, come on, moon. We didn't even want to visit you. I mean, we're done with our manned missions to the moon. Or are we? There might be some clandestine missions. Just, you know, a spare rocket in the shed. Might as well send it out to the moon, am I right? I mean, we still haven't explored the poles or the highlands. I don't even know if we've explored the midlands. But we have to go out there at some point. So I think that's forthcoming. Maybe we should do our anniversary last Apollo mission. Try it out, bring out a rover or 2, and see what we can do. But once we're coming back to Kerbin, I have to split up with what I'm doing with regards to recording. Now, our first time coming back here, we had a bit of an issue, and you're going to see the jump cut here in a little bit. But I had an issue with my recording. The way it kind of just stopped in the middle, and then I had to quick save, and then I came back and I said, what is going on here? Come on, Chief, why are you gonna stop my Minecraft like this? My Minecraft, and I'm playing KSP. But anyways, we come back to Kerbin. We are incoming with orbital speeds right here, just over 3,000 meters per second, and we have to eliminate that. Now, I put in a decoupler on the top stage to get rid of all of our science and such, which was a fatal mistake. Now, I did not get rid of it. I saw it, and I just decided to move it up in the staging so we wouldn't have to deal with that, because if you drop your science, regardless if you've collected it, if you've not moved the data into your capsule, your crew capsule, the main one, or one of the ones on your vessel, the science will vanish, and you'll have to go back and get it or quick save like I had to do. So we drop off those external little boosters right there. We don't need them anymore. It look like little MREs, the multiple re-entry vehicles, and they're just coming right in at interstellar speeds, and they're just going to crash into the land and make a couple nuclear explosions, because you didn't think we would just detach those without some sort of intent of harm, did you? Well, no, they were not an intent of harm, but now that they look like it, might as well back it up. I mean, Kerbal Space Program, you can't just be a little lollygagging space program. You have to have some brute force behind you, and if that comes in at the, you know, a nice little peaceful mission out to a moon, and then you come back with nuclear warheads, well, that's a statement. That's a statement, no doubt. I don't know how I would respond to that. But anyways, we are slowing down, and we are just using up all the fuel that we really did not need for this mission. As a matter of fact, we probably could have made off with just those little external boosters and just had another couple of science modules mounted where our fuel tank is on this main stage with our landing gear. So I deploy the parachutes, and I figure, hey, you know, we can time accelerate. We're about under 100 meters per second. We can't split our craft. Well, it turns out we can, because I even do a little bit of a burn and my craft still separates. I don't understand how that happened. It must have been a really weak binding. I don't have joint reinforcement, so that was really, it hurt. But anyways, I decided to go back, do the mission again, and then we are going to have our science report right here. So we come back with almost 700 science. That's some good stuff, and we haven't even explored all of Minmus's biomes yet, so that's very reinforcing for our future missions. Now, we do buy several things. I don't remember exactly what we buy. I don't know if I buy the rover stuff after all, but I do get the new Rocketry stuff, so I have the 3.5 capsules now, and I have some other good stuff along with that, some more joint reinforcement or the Kerbal attachment system stuff. Yeah, that's what it is. So I buy the heavier rocketry that has the KW rocketry, the Tesla engine, I believe it's called, and then we get the main cell as well. And then we decide to get this specialized control because we need it for the nuclear engine. And the nuclear engine comes in handy when we try to do our interplanetary transfers, so going out to Duna or what have you. So we'll need those for the forthcoming episodes, and we do decide to pick it up in this episode so we can get some more science while we're still lingering here in the Kerbal system, and then we can make our way out further. So look at this, time to buy it. Here we go. Let's go for the countdown. Oh my goodness. Gonna buy the nuclear engine in 3, 2, 1. Boom. There we go. Nuclear engine. That's what I like to see. But that really does it for this episode of Kerbal Space Program Interstellar Odyssey. I thank you all very much for watching, and stay tuned for some more forthcoming episodes.